Hello, friends. Welcome back to Gecko's Gaming. You may have found yourself on the timeless ladder, drowning in a soup of schlop, of one rings, and dark rituals, and chrome moxes, and strip mines, and ancient tombs, and bad black cards, and maybe some green cards thrown in, maybe some red cards thrown in sometimes. You may be asking yourself, how do I make sense of this? And which version is the best version? And what is this slop deck? And what is it trying to do? Well, this is the video for you because we're going to be we're going to be comparing the black deck to the black green deck. And we'll talk a little bit about maybe some of the other ancient tomb type decks. But the main focus is we're going to be comparing the mono black deck to the black green deck. We're going to be looking at data and we're going to be talking about my own experience with both decks also. And we're going to figure out what is the best way to build it and exactly what is this deck trying to do. So first of all, it's worth talking about what we call this deck. Some people are saying it's mid-range. I call it mid-range. Some people say no, it's more of a combo deck. Some people say no, it's more of a prison deck. Some people say you can't have mid-range if you're playing Dark Ritual, Chrome Mox, and Ancient Tomb, and a bunch of broken mana acceleration. But I maintain that this is a mid-range deck because its primary plan is to interact with the opponent. You have so much interaction, and it also wins by attacking with like random 2 and 3 mana creatures, maybe 4 mana creatures. So I do think that qualifies as mid-range. Of course, it does have a slot machine element to it, and it has the basic building blocks of like similar to the black necro decks, like the Muxus deck and things like that we're seeing around, the Sorin Storm decks and all that, where they have low land count, high MDFC counts, and fast mana, and a mono black shell. But this deck is a lot more interactive, and we're also trying to maximize fast mana, but we have less fast mana, we can't run sacrifice. So the primary plan of this deck is to interact with the opponent, shut them down, and then play random mid-range creatures. So I think it is mid-range. I could see arguments to the otherwise. I mean, sometimes you're going to get an insurmountable board advantage on turn 1, similar to with like a Sorin deck, where the opponent's just going to scoop. But I do think it is a mid-range deck, and perhaps we're just reaching a point where this is what mid-range has to be in the format to keep up with the crazy combos decks and stuff like that. You see blue decks are hacking like a free counterspell package to try to keep up. This is how black mid-range is going to keep up. We're going to play Chrome Mox and Dark Ritual and Ancient Tomb, and we're going to be reanimating Griefs and trying to wreck your hand on turn 1. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to review some of the data, and I'm going to compare these two decks. I'm going to compare the mono black deck to the black green deck in a deck tech comparison, and then I'm going to play black green, and then I'm going to come back with kind of a final verdict at the end of the video. But first, we're going to review some data, and I will say first, before we get into the data, that my verdict on which deck is better is based primarily on theory and also primarily on my experience, because the data that we have is limited and it's not conclusive. That said, let's go ahead and jump into some data, see what we have. All right, so first up for data, we have some untap.gg data early from this kind of more recent iteration of the format. We can see at the top mono black aggro, and you see there's Dark Ritual, Grief, Reanimate, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize. So that's pretty much the type of shell that we're looking at here. And you can see that it currently has the highest win rate on the ladder with 65%. And just so you can see the top, it says best of 3, and this is platinum to mythic. So only among kind of high rank players. And so, yeah, Mono Black Aggro has a 65.7% win rate with 800 matches. And Golgari Midrange, which is the Strip Mine deck with Deathrite Shaman and Wary Zone Guard, has a 61.4% over 1,700 matches. So again, this is early data. There's a lot of variance and externalities here. But from the data we can see so far that Mono Black is coming out ahead of Golgari, despite Golgari seeing more play. Interestingly, you see Mardu Energy still at the top, which is interesting because from my perspective, that card deck's more or less been extinct. But that's neither here nor there. You can also see Rakdos as having a respectable showing with a much smaller sample size, but 61%. So not far behind Golgari mid-range, pretty close actually. I think they're ranked lower just because their matches are so much less. There's so much less data for it. So that's our first look at the data. I'm going to pull up one other one here. All right, so here's the next piece of data that we have. This is compiled by Kore, who also has a Timeless Metagame channel. I highly recommend it. But he compiled this from the most recent Metagame challenge. And you have Golgari ban list. So the two things of interest here, there's a lot here, but for our purposes, Golgari ban list and MonoBlack ring are what we're looking at. Golgari ban list, we have 105 games, 76% win rate. And MonoBlack ring, 39 games, much less games, but 82% win rate. It's really hard with this amount of data. The data here is very small. And with this amount, we can't draw conclusive conclusions from it. And the other thing is the metagame challenge data. This is self-reported by players in the Discord, and so it skews towards higher skill players. It also skews towards self-reporting, like your wins, and maybe not reporting so much your losses. Like we're kind of trusting on people to report their own stuff, and that's also an error, in terms of data science. But then the other thing is too, like when you're in the Timeless Metagame challenge, there's a high amount of kind of janky brews or new players that kind of just see it. It's got a very low barrier of entry. It's only like 2,000 gold to jump in. So a lot of people just jump in with like their Pioneer deck or like some unrefined deck. So there's some amount of like free wins that come from that when you're playing a highly tuned meta deck like these. But all that being said, this is data. It's not nothing. And we can see here that once again, the MonoBlack ring list is beating Golgari, although, like I said, much smaller sample size. So do with that what you will. It's not nothing. So, but you can see that from both of these sources of data, the MonoBlack is beating out Golgari for whatever that's worth. So I'm gonna start by looking at the MonoBlack deck, and we'll talk about the central themes of this archetype, what we're trying to do. I'm just going to touch on this relatively quickly. If you want a more in-depth deck tech, I encourage you to check out my most recent video, where I forget what it's titled, but it's a MonoBlack. It's just all about MonoBlack, and I go in a little more in depth with the deck tech. This is going to be quick, moving past the MonoBlack, but I'm also going to show my updates to the deck too. So first of all, central themes. We have fast mana for Ancient Tomb, for Chrome Mox, for Dark Ritual, and then Reanimate to get way ahead on mana. Also, if we can discard Troll or Grief, or steal one of the opponent's fatties. So we're doing fast mana. We're doing a lot of disruption. So we have we attack their lands through Strip Mine. We attack their hand through Grief and Thoughtseize. We remove their creatures with Felda Profane, Shield Dread's Edicts. We punish them for drawing cards with Bowmasters. And we clear their graveyard we disrupt the graveyard with Voidwalker and Bogart Trawler. So a lot of interaction, a lot of disruption. Next of the main themes is threats. So we have reanimation for threats. We can reanimate a Grief or a Troll really early. Easy to discard those, easy to reanimate them. We have resilient, value-generating creatures with Barragoyf, Unstoppable Slasher, Shield Dread, Troll. These are all have some combination of they're either hard to take out, hard to interact with, or they generate value on their own. And then we have sorry, one sec here. Yeah, and then we also have additional threats with Bowmasters and Voidwalker to get in. These can both have evasive capacity, like Bowmasters can shoot their head, and then Voidwalker is unblockable for the most part. We have evasion with Grief also. So, and then Shield Dread also provides reach. So we can pressure the left toe through a number of different ways. And the idea is we're just trying to trade off, disrupt them enough throw them off balance so that these creatures can finish the job. And then the final component is like the power, just pure raw power of the deck, where we have a card advantage engine with one ring, and we have a combo with Shield Dread one ring, which is almost like an oops, I win button. And if you've been following like Eternal formats for a while, you know that even if you have like a mid-range deck, it's really nice to be able to have that oops, I win button in high-powered fast formats like this. And for our purposes, that's basically Shield Dread plus one ring is what we have there. Typically, this is going to provide an insurmountable game-ending combination if you can get both of these out on the board at the same time. Sometimes just ring alone is enough. And one thing I'll say about the advantage of Golgari is that they do get a second free win button in the Wary Zone Guard Strip Mine combo. So they get 2 of those, but we're going to come back to that later. So first, let's talk about the advantages of Mono Black versus Black Green. Mono Black has more consistency by having so many more black cards that can pitch, and then you have MDFCs that can be situational utility spells or removal. Or mana sources, black sources. So your mana is just a lot better. You're a lot more consistent. You're going to get the nut draws more often because of your consistency, because you're always going to be able to cast your spell off Dark Ritual. You don't have to worry about a Wary Zone Guard not needing green mana for that. And you're also always going to be able to pitch to Chrome Mox and pitch. You're going to have a lot of options of what you pitch to Chrome Mox. And again, I encourage you to reference my last video, but a lot of this deck is about crafting that perfect sequence and figuring out what your opponent is doing, and figuring out how best to disrupt it and how best to present the best threat, and then pitch the ones that are suboptimal in the situation. So this gives you a lot more agency, a lot more choices, and a lot more consistency in that option. Also in terms of crafting what the best interaction is, what the best way to disrupt them is, in addition to the best threat. Our threats, especially the 3-drops, are interchangeable. These are flex slots, Barrowgoyf and Slasher. They're both mid. They're not exciting, but they get the job done, especially when we're able to reduce their resources. Barrowgoyf snowballs effectively solo all by itself if you can land it and the opponent can't answer it. And it also gains its life, which is very important in some matchups. Also for mitigating life loss from the ring and reanimate and Ancient Tomb. Slasher, on the other hand, Slasher ends the game faster on its own, and it grinds better versus damage or destruction-based spot removal, which makes it applicable both for combo decks when you need to close the door fast, and against any non-white mid-range decks where they don't have Source of Plowshares and things like that to exile it. So it's good against like red mid-range, black mid-range, that kind of stuff. And if the opponent is running, these can be switched out with Opposition Agent, which I have in the sideboard. I have 4 in the sideboard right now. My reasoning for keeping those in the board is I think they're a little too situational. Barrowgoyf and Slasher are more all around. They're never too bad in any particular matchup. They can usually do at least something, even when they're bad. But Opposition Agent, if you're up against a mirror match, which there are a lot of running around, or another random mid-range deck without a lot of fetch lands or anything, it can really kind of just be a dead card. So it has a lot more, I think it has a higher ceiling, but it also has a lower floor, and that's why I have it in the sideboard right now. You can tune that as you like, depending on the metagame. You know, if you're expecting to run into a lot of show and tell and a lot of blue mid-range tempo cope decks, you can bring these in to the main and board out Slashers or something like that. Put Slashers in the sideboard. Important to note is that we do want, for these 3-drops, we want to have black 2 we want to have 2 colorless and black for casting costs. I have experimented with like Liliana of the Veil and a few other kind of double black type cards, and it's a lot harder to cast. You really want to have the consistency of being able to hit it with Ancient Tomb and with Strip Mine being able to cast your spells. So I do think that the black 2 is important in this slot, instead of having double black in your casting costs. Update on the sideboard. I've been working on increasing threat density, having less reactive cards. I cart randos like Filigree Silex and the Enchantment Destruction card. Like like I said earlier, Mardu Energy seems to me to be basically extinct. So I almost never see it. And when I do, it's not a tough matchup. So I've been going down on cards that we need for there. I cut the Meat Hook Massacre. But we still have 4 Fatal Pushes that come in there and 2 Toxic Deluge. That's, I figure, more than enough for most Mardu Energy decks if you run into it, or most small creature decks. And then if you're up against Mardu Energy or aggro type decks, you probably cut Graveyard. You cut Thoughtseizes. You can cut some Graveyard stuff if they're not on the Lurrus version, if they're on like a Boros version. But it kind of depends on their configuration, what you see. Against Show and Tell, where we have an amazing plan. I mean, the 4 opposition agents are really good. I also bring in Disruptor Flutes and Voidwalker just as another threat that can potentially disrupt them. They do like to cast Dig Through Time, and you can randomly hit like a Atraxa or an Omniscience or something like that off of Voidwalker, and that could be pretty good. But in that matchup, you want to cut 1 rings, and you can cut like Felder Profanes or things like that that aren't that effective. And then one of the great things about about the opposition agent is that it's really good against Show and Tell. You can play at instant speed. Between opposition agent, Disruptor Flute, and Bowmasters, you have like a flash instant speed kind of permission setup that can give them a bunch of new angles of attack. And what I love about opposition agent is that it really heavily disrupts Show and Tell, and it doesn't just scoop to Veil of Summer. It completely invalidates Veil of Summer, basically. I mean, they can cycle it, but that's all that they can really do with Veil against opposition agents. So they need they need Abrupt Decay basically to deal with this. And just the idea that we still have the main deck Thoughtseize increase, but we no longer just scoop to Leyline of Sanctity is a big deal. So the flutes plus the agents are great. The flutes I've gone down to 2 of. I think that it is pretty slow against the deck. I want to be as proactive as possible. So I'm going to max out on agents before I add any flutes. And then there's a lot more fast mana since they play Ancient Tomb and Chrome Mox now. They can get around the flute pretty easily. It's kind of a speed bump. So it's not as good as it used to be against them, but still part of this kind of flash disruption package. It's nice. Against blue decks, blue mid-range decks, you can bring in a couple Fatal Pushes for Psychic Frogs, Hydroponics, things like that. You can bring in Voidwalker, you can bring in opposition agents. Also have Palantir in here for mid-range decks, so this comes in against the mirror, also comes in against blue decks. It's an additional source of card advantage and reach, and life totals matter quite a bit when you're in mirrors, so I like it for that. Keep in mind you can't pitch it, so that's the other thing between the flute. I'm lowering flutes because you can't pitch them as well as opposition agents in Show and Tell. But yeah, in general, I'm trying to make the deck max out on pitchables. I think Palantir is a powerful enough card advantage engine that's worth playing anyways. And it works through, if the opponent has a Disruptor Flute, you can still get card advantage there. I think that you can also play Necropotence in this spot too, if you want another source of card advantage. Up to your preference on that. I've tried Liliana of the Veil in this spot also. I was not impressed. Her loyalty is too low. There's lots of big fatties, and again, the being hard to cast, the double black is prohibitive. Lily comes down with three loyalty and goes up to 4, and then just gets smoked by like an Eldrazi Linebreaker or something like that. It's just not. She's not as she's a little too slow for this format. Graveyard Trespasser I've also tried. It's also too small and too slow in a meta full of big creatures. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Golgari deck. All right, so I am recording this deck tech after the gameplay that you're about to see with Green-Black. So I will be updating the deck list. This is not the optimal deck list, I think, but at the end of the series, I'll show you my deck list, my updated deck list after playing these games. But for now, let's just kind of go through the basics. So the big advantage towards Golgari is that you get 2 free win buttons instead of just 1. I talked about you have the Shield Dread One Ring combo in Mono Black. In Golgari, you gain Wary Zone Guard plus Strip Mine as another free Oops I Win button. And that's very strong. I mean, as you saw in the last deck tech I just did just now when we were talking about Mono Black, the 3-drops are not exciting. And Wary Zone Guard is actually very strong. It's a lot better than Slasher. It's a lot better than Barrel Goyf. But it also brings more variance with it, because the amount of times that you either I have or that I've seen people lose with just a Wary Zone Guard in their hand that they just couldn't cast because of Dark Ritual or Chrome Mox or not enough green, just couldn't get that green source, that type of thing. The number of times I've seen a Zone Guard just stuck in somebody's hand that they couldn't cast is way too high. So I do think that this brings that extra element, but it does have the downside variance too. So a big question is, like, should this deck be Mono Black splashing for Wary Zone Guard, or does Wary Zone Guard, do you want to kind of lean more into green and do that thing, do more of a green black deck, or just go in a different direction? Like maybe you want to do green red with Ren and 6 or something like that if you are trying to maximize Wary Zone Guard. Some kind of main differences between this and Mono Black are fetches. I cut all fetches and I cut Deathrite Shaman from Mono Black because I just don't think it adds that much. And your mana is very crowded. I mean, you have 4 Strip Mines, you have 4 Ancient Tombs, and 1 Urborg that are pretty much, this takes up like half your land spots automatically, and you need these. And those are basically a lock. You also want Dark Ritual and Mox, but you don't want to end up with too many mana sources or you risk flooding. So that's 16 mana sources already kind of built into the deck. You know, I went down to, let's see, yeah, I went down 1 Chrome Mox, but it would be 15, it would be 17 if you're playing 4 Moxes. 4, 8, 12. Oh no, that would be, yeah, that would be 17. So it doesn't leave a lot of room for fetch lands, which you want for Wary Zone Guard, and which you basically need to make Deathrite Shaman playable also, I would argue. So I already went ahead and I cut the trolls because the swamps are already under so much pressure between the fetch lands. But that gives you less threats also and makes reanimate less good. You really want to play more lands to get the most out of your Wary Zone Guard, where you can get fetch lands too and get some value there off of it, even if you don't hit a Strip Mine. We don't have ways to tutor for Strip Mine. We don't have crop rotation. Crop rotation would be interesting, but again, then you come back to the pitch problem of what are you having too many green cards to pitch to Grief and Chrome Mox, and pitching green or Chrome Mox is usually not that good because you end up with basically another colorless source for all instances except Wary Zone Guard, and maybe a fringe case where you want to exile a creature with Shaman. So there's all this tension pulling at the lands here, and I think it really affects the core of the deck and what the deck wants to do, and it makes it less explosive overall. You do have the extra, like I said, you have the free I win button with Wary Zone Guard with a Strip Mine, and so you have another really you have another way to close the game really fast there. But in every other instance, your draws are going to be less explosive overall because you have less pitch, you have less options in terms of crafting your game plan in a way that maximizes the interaction that you have against the opponent while also maximizing the threat that you have against the opponent. So, like I said, much higher ceiling, but also a much lower floor here. And you have to ask yourself what you're willing to give up to play Wary Zone Guard and possibly Deathrite Shaman too. I think one potential solution is to cut the Deathrite Shaman and then go back to playing, some combination of Dothi, Voidwalker, and Bogart Trawler to deal with Graveyard. And then maybe you can go up to 4 Chrome Mox to have a little bit more mana acceleration still if you're leaning on Deathrite for that. Deathrite does really well when you start to trade off lands though. Like, it's good in the Strip Mine meta of being able to survive and still cast your spells. The Deathrite Shaman is awkward in that it also wants to chomp up your lands, but you know, sometimes you may strip mine, and then sometimes you may need to strip mine, and then you don't have. But then you also want to have Wary Zone Guard bring the land back, but you can't because you need to use it Deathrite Shaman to cast it. So you get awkward situations like that. One thing about Deathrite Shaman though that I will say is it's the perfect pitch to Chrome Mox, because you can cast your black spells and you can cast Wary Zone Guard. It's the only non-Zone Guard card in the deck that can cast Zone Guard with Chrome Mox. So that's worth considering. I will say also that you know, aside from competing, it doesn't compete for lands with the Wary Zone Guard in your graveyard, but I do think it can be mitigated by tight sequencing and planning ahead a little bit. And late game, it's not a problem. That's one reason that we have Barrowgoyf in here still, is because the milling can actually be pretty nice. Of course, Barrowgoyf has to get into the end zone to trigger that, so it's not the most fail-proof plan, but it is something. We get a little bit extra life gain here from the Deathrite Shaman, so that's a nice angle to the deck. Fatal Push is better since we have fetch land mana base. I was able to fit 6 fetch lands in and 6 fetchables. I think that's where I'm at for now. You could get a little more greedy with it. You could maybe cut another basic or another swamp. I mean, but that's kind of where I'm at here. Reanimate gets worse too since you don't have trolls. You could add like 1 or 2 trolls maybe. You know, if you wanted to get a little greedier and cut one of these basics or cut a fetch or something. But all this stuff, I mean, I can't figure out how to make the math work on this quite yet. Yeah, you know, you get better revolt triggers for Fatal Push, so that's why I have that main here. But you know, some potential other directions you could go with this. You can take crop rotation in, you can go more green. I do think that the Wary Zone Guard Strip Mine combo would perform better in a different shell with more green cards, more consistency. You could possibly combine Ren and 6, more ways to find Strip Mine, that kind of a thing. You play like you put it in an Eldrazi deck with Not Seer and Sowing Myco Spawn and Eldrazi Temple. You could also do like an Ignoble Hierarch type thing with Ren and 6, 2, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's where the deck is right now. We're gonna hop into some games, and then I'll show you my updated version at the end, and I'll give you my verdicts about which deck I think is better. All right, let's go into our first round. Play first. Not a great hand, but it does have a Strip Mine to make up for it. On the play, I'll keep it. Go turn 1 Deathrite. This deck has less reanimation targets since we cut the trolls. So reanimation gets worse in here than in the MonoBlack version. But something has to give. I decided to go down on reanimate a little bit to go up on lands and Deathrite Shaman and Wary Zone Guard and fetch lands. So I think that's kind of the payoff that has to happen. Looks like we're up against Show and Tell, which is bad news since we don't have any threats to present. I almost want to attack here, because there's no instant or sorceries. Alright. It's always kind of embarrassing to attack with a Deathrite Shaman, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I'd rather exile an instant or sorcery to dome them for 2, but we don't have that option. Ponder, sure. So next turn we're going to start doming them for 2. Hopefully we get some action here. I really need something to do. Ancient Tomb, nope. Just getting a lot of lands getting flooded. Island. Get their Ponder. Do 2 damage. And then I'm going to go ahead and shuffle and get my Surveil land here. We gotta find some action. Wary Zone Guard would be great. Nope, more fetch lands. Oh, getting flooded out. Wow, so much lands. That's crazy. We sort of kept like a mid hand and then we drew nothing but lands. I'm honestly tempted just to, yeah. I'm just going to crack Marsh Flats to get a tap land. I'm literally just gonna thin my deck here. That's where I'm at. Alright, they're pondering again. Or the Demonic Tutor. So they're gonna combo off next turn, presumably. And there's not much we can do about it. Hot Seas, nice. That might help. We'll see. They have everything. They have Show and Tell. Yeah, so we just take the Show and Tell. Deathrite Shaman plus lands. Is this going to go the distance? Probably not, but they're out of ways to shuffle. So their brainstorms are locking them out. They can dig through time. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can't even stop them from digging through time, so actually, I should have done that now, because they can exile their other instant sorceries in response. That's... I think that's not ideal for us to let them do that. I think I should have just Deathrighted in response. They can cast it either way. It's just a matter of they could like clear all their instant sorceries out and leave like one land, because I think they're over by one. Cast it. Alright, they're stocking up instead, sure. A lot of gas. Yeah, if I could have just drawn anything this game that does anything. Just Deathrite Shaman trying to go all the way here. Come on. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm not going to play Ancient Tome or I'm not going to play Yawgmoth because they could be in a spot where they need to use Ancient Tomb. So, we'll just pass. Yeah, Show and Tell again. Fine. There's Omni. Alright, well. We almost got there with solo Deathrite. Alright, sure. So we want the Flute. We want Oppo Agent. We want Voidwalker, more threats. And Terra Sunder might be okay. Got the Fatal Pushes. Boy, Reanimate sure was bad there, wasn't it? I was thinking about going down to 3 Reanimates. since we don't have trolls and whatnot, but cut the One Ring. Bring in the Voidwalker. Maybe Terrace Under. Like I said, it's probably got a few applications here. Edict is also not the worst. It can clear a Emrakul, clear an Atraxa. Varaglyph is pretty slow. Might be better than Terra Sunder, though. Just as a way to kill them. Yeah, let's try this. Deathrite Shaman is obviously not great here either. Alright, this is a keep. It does present quite a few decisions, though. Like, do I Dark Ritual plus Voidwalker or Bowmasters, or do I... with Deathrite Shaman? Or do I... see what they do turn 1, see if I can catch them with a fetch land. They're probably not going to fetch turn 1. They're smart, but they could just have to play a Surveil land or something. In which case Oppo Agent also doesn't do anything. So I think that the right play is just Deathrite Shaman and pass. And hold up Dark Ritual for next turn. It's close, right? I mean, I could see wanting to go Deathrite plus Voidwalker turn 1. And then if we draw a land, we can still cast Weary Zone Guard. It's close, it's close. Like, holding up Opposition Agent gives me more opportunity to interact with them. You know what? I'm just gonna go for it. I'm going Deathrite plus Bowmasters. Or plus Voidwalker, I mean. Let's try to get pressure on them here. Ponder, yep. So I have one fetch land. Got a lot of pressure on it. The Voidwalker Deathrite Shaman are really not a great combo because I would like to be eating up their instant and sorceries along the way, but we'll see here. Do I want to use my fetch land to cast Bowmasters? Unclear. But I will get him for 2 here. Alright, nice. Land is really good. I think I want to hold up Opposition Agents and Bowmasters instead of going for the Zone Guard, because all it would do is get me another fetch land, which doesn't really matter right now. One does nothing. Do I want to slam an Oppo Agent or Bowmasters? Probably do. Because either one is basically lethal. Let's go for Oppo Agent, since it costs more. I know that they're going to get to fetch and response. But I'd rather use all my mana this turn, put a 3-2 down, and then let them... They're going to mana drain it, that is fine. I'd rather have all my mana up for this coming turn, too. Be able to redeploy something. So I have another Oppo. And they're dead really soon here. So I could either go Oppo or Bowmasters, whichever is needed. They do have 3 mana, which is a big deal. See what they got. I had to do that before they went to combat because I needed to use the mana I got from Deathrite Shaman. They can't mana drain here. Got Waterlog Teachings in response, but that's cool because they're basically dead now because opposition hits for 3, Bowmasters hits for 1, so it's probably GG. Alright, good game. Go to game 3. I don't think we want to change anything. Seems good enough. It reanimates again. Man. I think I'm going to keep this. It's not exciting, but it interacts with them a couple of ways. Dark Ritual is interesting. Maybe I can catch them with an Oppo Agent here. think I'll Thoughtseize. And decide if I wanna. They might take the opportunity to crack their fetch now since I'm tapped out. Yeah, that's what they're gonna do. Pretty smart. Or they could either be protecting the cards that they need from Thoughtseize, or they can crack the fetch and get past opposition agent. Interesting to see what they choose here. If they crack the fetch, I get to strip mine after getting information about what's in their hand. Okay, they're not cracking. They have a pretty good hand. I think knockup's probably the biggest concern because I have reanimates for the opposition agent. Strip mine won't be effective here since they have the ancient tomes plus the blue delta. Go after their blue. So now they can't counter grief. There's the show and tell. I'm guessing they have, yeah, Omni on top there. Their last stat card. Take show and tell. And we're gonna reanimate grief. Do it again. We still have opposition agent up. They try to do something with their fetch land. They obviously have the read on the Oppo agent Dark Ritual combo, but I don't know if it matters. So I could strip, like, their last colored source. There we go. We just kind of backed them into a corner there with that. Which one do we want to get? Probably, let's see what they have. More black or more blue in their deck at this point. They have Stock up. I want to get blue-black, yeah. We have a lot of tools for show and tell. Tough matchup for them. We have so much interaction, so many ways to disrupt them. And also, like, the fact that, I know I've said this a few times, but the fact that these cards, the fact that Disruptor Flute and Opposition Agent interact with them in meaningful ways that also gets around Veil Summer is just huge. It's something that we didn't have before. I mean, sure, Flute was always there. That was good, but the Opposition Agent just gives a whole nother angle of, like, now we have two really strong, actually three, you know, if you count Bowmasters, we have three very strong ways to interact with them at instant speed, and two of them completely dodge Veil Summer, and the other one is just, like, that Veil Summer just isn't that good against Bowmasters, you know, it, like, saves you 1 damage. But just the fact that we can, like, interact with them and press on any of those buttons, press on any of those pressure points as we need to, is pretty good. This is a good hand. Could be another show and tell player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Grief and exile Shield Dread. It could be a Frog player too, in which case we would probably want the Shield Dread, but I'm going to go Grief, Shield Dread. We're going to go turn 1, Grief, Reanimate, and then turn 2, Wary Zone Guard. And that's going to be pretty good. Or I could just reanimate their Atraxa, and that's GG. Yeah. One of each card type, so we have Artifact. Take this for a land. Take an instant, we'll take a creature. Unfortunately, I cannot Deathrite Shaman unless I want to get rid of my... I guess I could throw away my Dark Ritual for it. I don't need Dark Ritual at this point. Sure. One, two, three, four. We have up to 5 mana, so we can go Zone Guard plus Bowmasters. Oh, second main. Oops. I keep doing that with the Wary Zone Guard. Alright. That's a silly mistake. They didn't have a strip mine. It would have just been a fetch land, but still, you don't want to miss that kind of value. Not good. It probably would have been better. I mean, I know it's always... You love reanimating the Atraxa on turn 1. Kind of what we're here for. But honestly, like taking stock up plus the Mana Tutor probably would have been better. That really would have left them with no options. You know, I guess it would leave them out to just drawing show and tell naturally, so maybe because I don't have a way to deal with the Atraxa. But yeah, maybe it was actually a decent line. It's hard to argue against reanimating Atraxa on turn 1. So see if they got show and tell. Looks like they do. It looks like they might have gotten there. They're going pretty fast. Wow, they have it. Yep, let's see what else they have. They have gas too. Yep, they got Mana Tutor. Nice. Siphoner to get back. Take 3 time. Or yeah, D-Tutor, yeah, that's actually even better. Wow. Got super lucky there. Nice, nice. Infinite Cyber Siphoners. Alright, cool. Yeah, I think, you know, maybe I should have done that. I don't know. That was interesting. I mean, I obviously did make the minor mistake with the Wary Zone Guard, but that really didn't matter. If I had a strip mine, it would have mattered, but in that case, it didn't. They just drew naturally. That's what Show and Tell does. It's a very elastic deck. It's a very resilient and redundant deck, so you can't really get mad about that. It's just kind of what the deck does. Um, yeah, I could see the argument of taking the D-Tutor and the stock up, but all right, we're gonna cut Fatal Pushes. I'm gonna cut 1 rings, too slow. And we could cut Barrow Goyf, or we could cut a Reanimate. Reanimate just has a lot of situations where it doesn't do anything. Especially since we cut Trolls. So I think having 3 Reanimates is fine. And then, like, do we want an Edict? Or perhaps a Terra Sunder? That's the other question. It gives us an out against Emrakul. But it also can rot in our hand and not do anything. Play first. We kind of have a nut draw, but also kind of not because it's a little slow. But I can do a turn 2 Zone Guard plus Deathrite Shaman plus Strip Mine, so yeah. Just the fact that this comes in tapped slows us down a little bit. But turn 2 we can Strip Mine them twice. That'll probably be GG, honestly. Don't need another one of those. Grief. I actually can't straight mine them twice because I only have one. I have to use my green stars to cast Dark Ritual. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and take a peek at their hand. Rid of this Shield Dread. It's gonna be too slow for this matchup. Shield Dread is fine here if you can really ramp it out, but okay, they were trying to get us with the turn 2 show and tell. That would have been quite rude. So instead what we're gonna do is we're gonna take their only land. Their only colored land. And hopefully we can get to Wary Zone Guard soon, but I don't think maybe I just want to Death Right so that I can get to Zone Guard next turn. And then hold back on the Bowmasters. Can I do both? Yeah. I'd only have 2 mana next turn unless I draw one naturally. But they're in a tough spot where they need to have both. Yeah. I think I want to go for the Deathrite Shaman Bowmasters play. Just to get the pressure up on them while I have a chance here. And then Deathrite Shaman gives us mana next turn so that we can hopefully cast Wary Zone Guard then. Disruptor Flute. Okay, that's pretty good. Don't hate that. Probably just do it now, right? Because they could naturally draw like an island in a strip mine or an island in a show and tell. Because they have Abrupt Decay, but they have a lot of things that they need to... They're starting to get a lot of things they need to Abrupt Decay, and it's hard to cast. They need 2 more lands that have mana that they don't even have in sight right now. So okay, there's one. They have a Chrome Mox. Okay, that's pretty good. So they can take out my Disruptor Flute. Whenever it's convenient to them, they can do that. But I have a Zone Guard that they also need to take out here. So I think I'm going to go for the Zone Guard. I know it's going to just die, but it forces them to have to use their last piece of interaction on that, and then everything else can continue to wreak havoc. Yep. We're still dead to like a show and tell. So not in a good spot necessarily. Oppo Agent is good. It's one of those weird spots where you should kind of attack with the Deathrite Shaman, even though it looks goofy. Because I'm going to spend 3 mana on Oppo Agent this turn. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they can dig through time. Jeez, dude. Disruptor Flute really doesn't do anything with the 2 Ancient Tombs out. This might be too much of a tell on the Oppo Agent. Like, that's... Brainstorm end step, huh? Yeah, I guess that makes sense to dodge the Bowmaster damage. Oh, that's fine. Okay. Pondering, so they don't have it quite yet. That's good. But now they get to dig 4 more cards deep, which is just really strong. They have 1 more colored source. They could play another land, of course. Okay, we got him. Nice. That was a close one. Yeah. I mean, Reanimate is good with exactly Grief here, and doesn't really have many other applications. I could take an Atraxa, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the game is a lock, as you saw. Game 1. Kind of want to tear asunder, honestly. I don't know. It's good against Chromox. I guess that's about it. So maybe it's not what we want here. All right, let's just go for it. One goes first. We have 2 strips. Strip is so good on the draw. They haven't missed either. Going straight for it. That means they probably want to ponder right away. Yeah. In their breeding pool, the strip mine's going to be good. It's a question of do I want to cast Grief or not here. I probably would exile Bowmasters since I can cast Oppo Agent once I have 2 lands. Alright, that makes it easier actually. I can exile Grief to Grief. And then that can guide my next line here. Once I see what they have. Alright, pretty good hand. It is a pretty good hand. We're gonna have to take one of the stock ups. Teachings. They have a lot of lands too, so the strip mine plan's not gonna be great. This kind of buys us time, I guess. I'm hoping to hit like a Dark Rit here. Swamp, not good. We can spook him with this Overgrown Tomb. Untapped. They have to play around Opposition Agent. Even though we have one, but we can't cast it, so... So now we have the Oppo Agent up. So they get to get one of their fetches off, and then they can stock up next turn. Or they have a counterspell. No, they don't. Probably want to take their Hedge Maze. Or their under... Yeah, I probably want to take the Undercity Sewers. So they can't get their black and Surveil. Looks like that might be what they need here. Going for the mana denial strategy. Stock up, yep. Next turn I'm going to strip mine. We'll see what they do here if they have any other plays, but I'll probably strip mine their colored source. Okay, there's a Chrome Mox. That changes things, because now they have another colored source that I can't touch. Exiled Teachings. Why would they do that on their turn? That's kind of interesting. So far, I feel like this opponent has played pretty well, but generally it's not great to Chrome Mox on your turn. Maybe he needs to play around a discard spell. So which do I strip? There's enough mana to show and tell either way. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's right, but I'm not stopping him with by taking out the Ancient Tomb really either way. So Masters does 3 damage. This does 3, so we can't really get them on a. I mean, they have a tomb. They have to tap for 2 if they want to do anything. That's the other thing. It kind of makes Bowmasters like lethal without having to cast the Goyf to tap out. So, right, because Bowmasters will do 3 damage, this will do 3, and they do 2 to themselves with that. Presumably. And that's if they don't cast any card draw spells also. Yeah, here we go. Hit him with the Bowmasters. Good game, good game. That was a good one. So we've had 2 successful runs against Show and Tell, I suppose. Of course, I forgot to turn on Untap for this. Darn. Didn't get these games. Let's do one more. What do we have here? What do we have here? We have a turn 1 Grief Reanimate. Then we can save the Chrome Mox for a later turn. I think that's the move. They have Yorion, huh? Nice. Ditch Shelly to start. Since I'm low on mana, low on resources here, I want to make sure that I'm I just want to make sure that I have the enough resources. I have enough lands. I have enough lands to cast all my spells. Shelly's expensive. Okay, they have Lorien, which is pretty good. Mana Drain, Ponder. I just take Ponder, I guess. I'll take the Lorien, probably. Because... I take Lorien there because, yeah, they're going to try to strip mine me, so... I want to keep their mana low, too. They're going to go for that route. Hopefully this... Yeah, they have the mana denial plan. Do I want to play Chrome Mox and Bowmasters? Or do I want to, like, hold up and try to hit a, try to hit another land and then Zone Guard, which would be really strong here on this board. It's kind of close. I think I want to hold. I don't know, though. I could really see that going either way. Alright, they ripped a fetch land, which is pretty good. I think I'm actually going to fetch here. Because I would really like to hit a land for a Zone Guard. It's good. Let's get a Surveil. I'm like really rolling the dice here. This is a risky move. Ditch the Bowmasters. Let's hope we can hit a land here. No land, but a Reanimate's not bad, actually. Reanimate is not bad. Man, this is close. It's gonna reanimate the Bowmasters here. Let's try to get a bunch of damage in on them. They topped. So they have two unknown cards in their hand. One of them they topped, I think. Is that their second? Yeah, that was their second strip mine. Oh, now I get the Dark Ritual, right? Isn't that how it goes? That's okay. We're doing 5 per turn. I don't think they can stop this imminently. Let's see what they have. Swords? Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Oh, man, it's so awkward. I was just so close to getting the Zone Guard going. I can't really do anything because we just keep coming back to the fact that the deck is so awkward with the green cards in it when you're doing Chrome Mox stuff and Dark Ritual stuff. The green is just bad, man. Like, it's hard to make that work. See, because now I have a colorless land and I can do this for black or green, but I still can't cast Zone Guard, so you know, like, what are we doing? This is where I much prefer the black deck, not gonna lie. I guess I Chrome Mox, Exile Dark Ritual. Feels bad in a way, but it's kind of, I guess, what I need to do here. And kind of try to, like, attack. This is such a tell that I have a Bowmasters, but... I missed 1 point of damage, actually. I should have done that before damage. They're playing an Esper version. I mean, like, Wary Zone Guard does... it's so strong when you get it, but I think people underestimate the number of times that it just sits as a dead card in your hand. Okay, they bought themselves at least another turn. Actually, no, another dead because... yeah, okay, GG. So, Esper Stoneforge with the Yorion. Okay. I want Oppo Agents for sure. Terra Sunder's good. Disruptor Flute can mess up their equipment activation, but I don't think that's... You can also interact with Stoneforge. And they may have Teferis too. I don't know. All these things together, I think, add up to like not being good enough for Flute, but I still think it's worth considering. Edict is good. I don't think Voidwalkers are going to be good here. I don't think they do much graveyard stuff. So what's bad though is the question. Deathrite Shaman's okay. Doesn't do much. Again, they don't have a lot of graveyard stuff. I'm probably cutting Chrome Mox. At least 2. I might cut all of them. Reanimate. I can cut some of... I can cut one of those, I think. Since they have a lot of exile, it's hard to use it on my own stuff. Like, it's good with exactly Grief, and that's it. Yeah, I don't think I need Edict, actually. Put a Deathrite. I'm cutting a lot of mana sources, but... I think that's okay. I'm going down on Chrome Moxes because I do think that card advantage is going to matter a lot. Post board here, things are going to slow down. Ha! What is this hand? Bro. Mono 4 drops and 3 swamps. I don't know, man. I kind of want to keep it because their deck's not that fast. It is bad. It is a bad hand. I mean, I can Grief, Shield Dredge. I can exile one of the Shield Dredge to Grief, but I can fetch my Surveil. Let's give it a shot. I don't know. Like, if this was a tournament, I would probably mulligan this hand. I kind of want to see how it goes. Okay, that's actually awesome. Alright, so let's grief here. I think I want to grief now before they have an opportunity to mono drain me. They could subtlety, but I'm not worried about that. Interesting hand, because the Stoneforge Mystic is definitely dangerous. But so is mono drain. The mono drain is more of a concern. See what they get. Got Batter Skull. I should have taken the Stoneforge, probably. That's fine. I think we're cooked. Should have taken the Stoneforge. Should have taken Stoneforge instead of Mono Drain. Now they can flare me, and then they can strip my Ancient Tomb. So we're not in a good spot. Not at all. Yep. If they strip my Ancient Tomb, I can still cast One Ring next turn at least. And that's kind of my last hope, I think, here. Another Stoneforge, nice. I should have taken the Stoneforge, I think. Yeah. Caldera Complete's gonna wreck me. I think that's indestructible. That one doesn't. take a turn for reprieve here from the One Ring, and then if they don't have a counter spell or removal, I can do the Shield Jet thing next turn, but that's unlikely. Grief gives us a chance. I just don't have enough mana to cast Field Dread though now, without killing myself. Let's see what they have, I guess. That gave me a little bit more information for round 3. Have a flare. Yeah, they have a lot of bases covered. 1, 2, yeah, I'm just gonna be 1 short. One, two, three. I can't tap the Ancient Tomb. Might want some sweepers actually here. Maybe I want some sweepers. One sweeper is probably fine. It's just I don't have a lot of cards that are really good against what they're doing. Another Terra Sunder would be kind of nice to have, but none of these cards are really good. I don't know. Yeah, man. The Stoneforge Mystic deck has our number a little bit. I'm going to have to make some tweaks to the deck. I know this is getting popular. Chester made a video. Been making videos with it. Sweet looking deck. This is fine. We'll go turn 1 Deathrite. This is just like a regular fair hand, you know? It's kind of funny. Could be like a Pioneer deck or something. Except for Strip Mine, of course. try to deny them their turn 2 play by putting a strip mine out. Kind of funny how much better strip mine is on the draw than on the play, though. I don't need to use my land yet, actually. There's nothing else to target, so I guess... actually I might as well, so that, yeah, let's do it. Not only does this bluff a opposition agent, but it also allows me to strip mine plus Bowmasters if I want to, so... Subtlety? Wow. Throwing their whole hand out. Okay. I think Bowmaster is just fine to draw here. I'm on my way up to a Shield Dread. I could reanimate their subtlety and just kind of start pressuring them that way. But I think I like waiting until they possibly have a creature. And then I could reanimate it and exile it. That seems a little bit better. I was supposed to do this during second main so they can't tap it in response. That was a huge mistake there. I didn't get priority during their second main though. Okay, they tapped it for white. That could tell me that they have a Source of Plowshares. So let's actually wait. Shocked myself for no reason there, but it's what it is. Play Bowmasters now just to make sure they can't counter it with, in case they have like a Stern Scolding or something like that. See if we can find a Mana Source Slam Shield Dread. So I'll get a Surveil. Grief. I like Grief here. I like Grief a lot. Something good to do with my reanimates. Towards my Bowmasters. It's fine. Get rid of Deluge. Listen, onslaught of disruption. So much disruption. Treasure Cruise. Yikes, dude. We gotta take that. Treasure Cruise is scary. And then we'll reanimate Grief, take their Source of Plowshares. That was close. We almost got Treasure Cruise there. That was a close one. No way, dude. Rip it off the top. All right, fair enough, fair enough. Now they have Subtlety also. That is so good. Wow, in their 75 card deck, they rip Treasure Cruise. Good beats, man. It's just good beats. I know that they have Subtlety, but I just have to keep the pressure on their hand here. They have a Mana Drain too. Hey. Nice. Very fortunate sequence of draws for them. Are casting a Batter Skull. That plays. Rip mine. And they take Yorion, okay. I think I need to Thoughtseize the Subtlety here. This puts me on a kind of a 2-turn clock, I guess. Draw their land, so they're going to get another Batter Skull. Let's try to keep the life total high in case we hit a one ring here. Tear Asunder is probably too late for that, though. I didn't need to pay 4, but whatever. Don't have any other things to do, so... Alright, I have one more draw. Come on, baby. Alright, that was a good game, man. They got... I mean, that was... I think we did what we needed to do there. I think we played well. But sometimes you just get... Sometimes you just lose to the top of the opponent's deck, and that happens sometimes. And I think the opponent played pretty well, so... No shade against them, but that was extremely lucky to rip Treasure Cruise right off the top and then rip Mana Drain right after it. But GG. Alright, those were some really fun games. I think I could have bought myself... Obviously, I could have bought myself one more turn in that last game against the Stoneforge deck by exiling Yorion instead of Batterskull with my Terra Sunder, which would have maybe bought me one more game because then I could actually chump block the Batterskull. I couldn't chump block the Flying Yorion. It could have bought me one more turn, but I was thinking like I kind of wanted more of the upside play because if they were tapped out, and that was my only chance to kill the Batterskull before they bounce it. So, you know, it's 6 to 1, half dozen of the other. I would have bought one more turn, but then I would have been in a much tougher spot too, in terms of drawing outs. But so just kind of a recap. Let's go ahead. I'll show you my updates for the deck. We're gonna cut 2 flutes And we're going to cut 1 Toxic Deluge for 2 more opposition agents and another Thoughtseize. Help with the blue decks. I was talking a lot about how bad it is to pitch, how much the deck struggles to pitch cards. So having the flutes in over the agents was not a great call there. But this is what I would do going forward. However, I do think that the mono black deck is better. That's going to be the one I'm going to be focusing on. I don't feel like this is done yet. I think that there's still more to be learned in terms of how to maximize this black-green deck, especially the mana base. And I do think that Terra Sunder is quite well positioned in the metagame right now, and it's nice that this deck gets to play that. I could see it being even better in like a green-red, Ren and 6, Wary Zone Guard, Crop Rotation, Strip Mine deck that splashes black for Deathrite Shaman and Terra Sunder just to cover its basis in terms of unconditional removal. But overall, my verdict is that the mono black deck is better because of consistency and the flexibility of it. And that's been my experience. That's also my theory crafting conclusion. And then looking at the data backs up my experience. I mean, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't just derive this conclusion just from the data, because the data is early and not conclusive. So we may change. We could see some evolutions with this deck where maybe there's new tech that happens that resolves some of the issues I'm talking about. And then that might change. But so far, my perspective, mono black is better. And it is encouraging that the data reinforces my experience so far too. But overall, I think people are biased towards remembering the times when Wary Zone Guard is nuts and forgetting all the times it like rots in your hand or loses you a game because you needed a card to pitch or you needed more choices on what to pitch, or it was just uncastable off of your Dark Ritual or things like that. So in my opinion, the flexibility and the consistency of mono black comes out ahead in the long run. It has more agency. It has more meaningful choices. It has more fast starts, even though those starts may not be quite as broken as the Wary Zone Guard. I think that they're plenty good enough. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate everybody sticking with me and watching to the end of the video. And I'm totally open to hearing what your thoughts are about the deck, or if you have a better way to build black green you think, or what you think the best shell is for Wary Zone Guard. And yeah, I really appreciate once again everybody for watching the video, and please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. And yeah, stay tuned. There'll be more cool timeless content coming down the pipe. Have a great day. Bye bye.